What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. Chance and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in everyone to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host and friend of the show, Tony Thornton, as well as a new guest and friend of the show, Max McGee, who's an anchor for WJZ Sports. Max, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to join you guys. Thanks for having me for real.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad you have a familiar face in Tony to greet you. Absolutely a big fan favorite of ours as well. So I know.
I was going to say Max is one of my all-time favorite anchors here locally. If you don't watch WJZ, I call him the Stuart Scott of anchors here in Baltimore. He's he's very hip and he knows his stuff, and certainly as professional as he can be. And I certainly enjoy watching him and the entire crew there. Not to give Jay-Z a plug, but it's a good crew there, and he knows that. So I appreciate him being here.
Tony, I appreciate it, man. You've been one of our loyal watchers for a long time. When I used to get up at 4 a.m. for those 4:30 a.m. shows.
I remember, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, so I'm absolutely. Thank you.
Nice. Stuart Scott, man, that's high praise. I mean, we talk about those celebrity losses that really affect us. Stuart was in no doubt a big one for me. Man, grew up watching that guy. So, yeah, high praise. No pressure at all, Max, living up to that height. But before we get started, this show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. And look, a winning season has started off hot, but MyBookie's continuing to crank up the heat with a $50,000 Survivor contest. So whether you're new or an existing customer, if you've made a deposit with MyBookie, you'll earn an entry into the $50,000 Survivor contest absolutely free. To play, all you have to do is pick one winner each week to keep your streak alive and have a shot at the grand prize. So start off strong with the Ravens. Pick the Ravens over the Lions. The Lions haven't beaten the Ravens since Lamar Jackson was in second grade. So pick the Ravens to beat the Lions. That'll start you off in a good direction. Either way, it's simple to play and win, even if you don't have a ton of betting experience, which is why I always choose MyBookie for my NFL contests. So head to mybookie.ag right now and get in on the competition. Use promo code 410. That's 410 to receive double your first deposit and get instant access to the $50,000 Survivor pool. Again, that's promo code 410, 410 to instantly double your first deposit. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. All right. Now back to the show. Appreciate you guys hanging out. But the first question I have for you, Max, is Ravens fans were pretty down after all the injuries. I mean, they were coming hard and heavy. I mean, it seemed like every time I opened the phone, I was hitting the groin with another Ravens injury. And then the week one loss to the Raiders didn't do any favors. I mean, a lot of people expected the Ravens to win that game, even with the injuries, and they came up short. But all that seemingly changed after last week's thrilling win over the Chiefs. So what are your thoughts on the expectations fans should have for this team going forward? And should the Ravens and their fans still have Super Bowl aspirations?
They should still have Super Bowl aspirations, even with all the injuries, I should say, because there's 14 weeks left in the season. It's only week 3, and the Ravens aren't going to be the only team with the injuries. For example, you see up in Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, he's already dealing with with the groin or the neck or injury, whatever he's dealing with. And there's going to be many more injuries throughout the league. The Ravens, they're not feeling sorry for themselves. They've dealt with injuries in the past, and they're going to deal with them accordingly as for the future. I mean, as long as their offensive line, for me, stays healthy, that's why they got Kevin Zeitler from the New York Giants. I think when Ronnie Stanley eventually comes back, we all know he played poorly week 1. And I think he was kind of given a pass because of his Pro Bowl stature, and all the attention was kind of on Alejandro Villanueva on the right side. But I think once those tackles get fully healthy, they should be fine. And as long as they have Greg Roman coming up with new plays and new designs for them to run the football effectively, and then keep Lamar Jackson somewhat in the pocket and have a little bit of creativity with him rolling outside of the pocket like we've already seen, I think they're going to be fine. I think the Super Bowl aspirations are just fine. I still think this team's going to go maybe 11-6, and they're going to be right there in the end with Pittsburgh.
Okay, all right. Well, speaking of that offensive line, The success Villanueva had, I think, switching back to left tackle, I think surprised a lot of people. I mean, it was shocking to see how well he played at left tackle against guys like Chris Jones and Frank Clark. No slouches there for sure, and he played fantastic. And then also to compound that, Patrick McCarry looked phenomenal at right tackle. I mean, these guys, he was getting ready to get ran out of town last year at center when he threw the ball over Lamar's head. And then he steps in and plays a phenomenal game at right tackle. And it kind of makes me wonder what the Ravens will do once Stanley's back and ready to go. So do you think when he comes back, does a Big Al go back to right? Does he become the swing tackle and you leave McCarry there? Some people say they should probably move Stanley to right because, look, he's already paid, so it ain't an issue of payment. Move him to right and leave Big Al at left. What are your thoughts on what they'll do on the offensive line?
I think Ronnie Stanley is going to stay on the left-hand side because I had that thought last year when Orlando Brown started to hear the thoughts of him trying to move to the left side. If Ronnie Stanley was available to go to the right side, or if he was open to go to the right side of the offensive line, he would have done it to keep Orlando Brown. And the fact that he did it shows you everything you need to know. I think they're going to keep Ronnie at left. They're going to keep Alejandro Villanueva at right. And I think since it is so early, I think a lot of people, they start to panic when they start to see the offensive line not start to play well early in the season. This Ravens offensive line is not anywhere close to where it could potentially be later on in the season. And that goes not just for the offensive line, but the receivers, the running backs. Everything's going to be changing, and it's going to be an adjusting flow as we progress throughout the year. But I think the offensive line is going to be fine. I think Ronnie's going to stay on the left-hand side.
Yeah, getting back to the injuries, I know we talked about those, and heading into the season, the Ravens dealt with a rash of them, and no position, Max, was hit as hard as that running back room. My goodness. I mean, it was just crazy. And with that said, the Ravens are currently leading the league right now in rushing. I mean, I think Max McGee and Tony Thornton and Glenn could get in the backfield now and rush and really pick up some yards. But, but with that being said, what does that tell you about the Ravens? And then on top of that, how do they continue to find a success in spite of losing their top three running backs? Do you think that this new slew of running backs can keep this up throughout the season?
Yeah, I think they're going to be fine. I think the Ravens scouting department, with Corey Frazier and the rest of those guys, they find guys in college who know how to fit their scheme. One cut, zone, get the ball downhill. And I think they're going to be fine. I know it was a lot to take when you lost 1, 2, 3. It seems like they lose somebody every week. But I think their scouting and their preparation, as long as they have Greg Roman, and look, everything is kind of disguised when you have Lamar Jackson. Just picture this team without Lamar. Remember when they had Joe Flacco? This team was the most boring team to watch on TV. I remember watching them all the way from Lake Charles, Louisiana, or way back where I was in Cherry Hill, New Jersey before I entered the TV business. They used to be on CBS every Sunday, and I used to just dread, why are they still playing these teams? The fact that they have Lamar Jackson disguises everything. I think as long as you have number 8 back there, it's going to take a lot of the attention away from the running backs.
Yeah, it's like Hollywood said when he was asked on that interview on NFL Network. He said, why, how do they keep doing? We got number 8. I mean, we got Lamar Jackson, and that's seemingly looks like that's all you need to have a great run attack, and hopefully they can keep it up. But switching sides to the defense, Odafe Owe, I mean, he's more than lived up to the hype of being a first-round pick. And in fact, it has just achieved AFC Defensive Player of the Week in just his second career game. Have you been surprised at the level he's playing this early, considering the fact that he's a rookie and he's relatively new to football?
Well, we knew what he could possibly do just because of his stature. Anytime you are blessed with height and speed like that, you are 6'5" and you run a 4, whatever. That's just a ridiculous amount of talent. That's God-given. You can't teach that. I didn't think that he would be this successful this early. I mean, the guy didn't even have a sack his senior year at Penn State. And a lot of the scouts and everybody kind of wrote him off because he didn't get that sack. But he was always trying to put pressure on the quarterback. And I think the Ravens don't really put that much value in the number of sacks that you get. But as long as you put the pressure on the quarterback, especially in this AFC division where premium pass rushers You need one. When you have Josh Allen in the AFC East, you have Baker Mayfield, and you have Ben Roethlisberger, you need to put pressure on the quarterback. So I think this guy was sent from above, 6'5", 255 pounds. And it seems like the Ravens always find a way in the draft to get a pass rusher. You saw it with Zadarius Smith. You saw it with Matthew Judon. They find a way. And I think I saw this on Twitter the other day. I think if Orlando Brown didn't ask for that trade to Kansas City, there's no way that Odafe Owe is a Baltimore Raven, because without that trade, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. And, it's interesting because, he has certainly, with his raw talent and his ability, I think we're going to see much, much more from him. And, even at this point, Max, with defense almost as banged up as the offense, they used to have a deep cornerback room. We just saw 4 healthy cornerbacks this past Sunday. And one of these guys was named, Kevin Seymour. Who was he? He just got here. But they played well enough to win. But should the Ravens fans be worried about this cornerback depth? Because, with Hump, and, Hump is playing okay. He's banged up a little bit, but he's still playing through it. He's still a Pro Bowler. Marcus Peters gone. Tavon Young's a little banged up right now. Should the Ravens fans be concerned about this, about this going forward?
I still think about that a lot. And I always go back to the health of Jimmy Smith, because I think the absence of Jimmy Smith week 1 versus the Las Vegas Raiders was huge. And that's why we saw Darren Waller. He's still running for yards. And then you saw Darren Waller kind of get his production limited in week 2 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they need somebody who can be a little versatile, cover the tight ends, and get a corner like Tavon Young in the nickel. On paper, the Ravens have one of the best secondaries for depth on paper. As long as you have Marlon Humphrey covering the opposition's number 1 wide receiver, I think you're going to be fine. As far as worrying about injuries, these things happen, and the Ravens know these things happen. When you lost Marcus Peters, that is a tremendous loss. You cannot replace Marcus Peters. I think you can replace a running back, because I think it's just plug and play, but you cannot replace a Marcus Peters, a guy who knows what's coming on every play, and a guy who's a ball hawk. I think they're going to rely on Jimmy Smith's health. I think Tavon Young, as long as his knees hold up, every time he gets up slowly, I cringe because of those ACLs. But I think the Ravens secondary is going to be fine. And Anthony Averett, everyone says he has Pro Bowl talent. I think it's time to show it right now, because I'm tired of hearing Wink Martindale say this guy has Pro Bowl talent. He's just got to show. I need to see it. I need to see it. The best availability, or the best ability, is availability, and that's what I'm trying to see with these guys.
Good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he certainly had a pretty good one last week with some help, limiting Ty Hill to just 3 catches for 14 yards. But got to have the guys to do it, and hopefully they can get Jimmy back and get some health there, because they certainly need the help. But Lamar Jackson once again displayed. I mean, he just shows that he's the best playmaker in the league. He has 346 yards, 3 touchdowns over the Chiefs. So, what are your thoughts on how Lamar Jackson has played so far, and what are your expectations on Lamar finishing out this season? Is this could he make another run at MVP? Is this something we're witnessing?
As long as the Ravens give him some help, and as long as Greg Roman doesn't try to do anything outside of the box and let Lamar be Lamar. I don't think Lamar is ever going to be the guy who's going to be throwing for 4,500 yards every year. I don't think he's going to be the guy that throws for 45 pass attempts every game. I think if they try to keep Lamar's pass attempts between 25 and 30, the way it's been the past couple of weeks, and then let Lamar be Lamar with his running style or whatever, I think they're going to be fine. Lamar Jackson is a superstar, and everybody knows it. But the number one thing that everyone in that organization has to do is take care of him. And that starts with the offensive line. That starts with Ronnie Stanley and Kevin Zeitler and Alejandro Villanueva. Because, guys, can you imagine this team with Robert Griffin III like we did last year in Pittsburgh? That was dreadful. And every time I hear about Robert Griffin III coming back to train and possibly playing with the Washington football team, son, you are done. It's over. So I cannot see this team without Lamar Jackson. Quite frankly, I hope he signs that extension soon, because I don't want to see him sprain an ankle or anything. I need to see him upright and throwing for 35 touchdowns a year like he's been doing.
Let me ask you this question, Max, because this is a narrative that I'm getting kind of tired of when it comes to Lamar. And I think one of the things the pundits who are looking from afar, they're looking at the league and looking at all the teams. But, is it because Lamar is just so different that no one has seen this type of player, I would guess, since the likes of Michael Vick and Randall Cunningham? Is it because he's so different and that everybody keeps saying, oh, they have him figure it out, or they always find flaw? Like, it seems like there's a flaw that's found in his game every single week. And is that just something that we just have to learn to live with as fans? And because every time I turn around to someone saying that they can figure him out, or he's not a great passer, or whatever whatever it is, but I think it's just the fact that he's different. There's no one like him in the league. What are your thoughts about his skill set in comparison to other quarterbacks in the league?
People hate what they don't understand, Tony. And I think Nas said it in the song 25 years ago, and it's still relevant today. Lamar Jackson, he is a special football player. And then people thought that this guy was a running back. He's a wide receiver coming out of Louisville. He didn't get all the offers coming out of South Florida, Boynton Beach, Florida, for college. He's a quarterback, obviously. You don't win MVP by accident. I think you got to let the haters hate, do their own thing. You don't throw for 35-something touchdowns by accident and run for another 1,000 yards by accident. A lot of people were questioning Michael Vick. They questioned Donovan McNabb. They questioned all the dual threat quarterbacks. You got to let him be him. He's not Tom Brady, and he's not Brett Favre. He's not Aaron Rodgers. But every time someone says that he can't throw the ball, what happens? He throws a laser outside the numbers, or he makes an athletic play and extends the pocket, and he delivers a strike to Marquise Hollywood Brown down the field, and he comes back with cramps last year on Monday Night Football on fourth down, and he makes magic throwing the football. Right. I don't give a damn about what everybody else says. Lamar is going to be Lamar. He's going to be a great player for years to come.
Agreed.
I wish those haters didn't bother me, but for some reason they get under my skin, man. Oh, it burns me up. The nonsense from these other fans. It's crazy to me how they don't just recognize the greatness that they're seeing. Oh, it gets me so fired up. You should see my thumbs texting. I'm like, you son of a.
Yeah, it seems like all the time the fans are annoyed by it, but every time you see Lamar, he always has that same look on his face, like, I don't care. I'm going to go out.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I love the confidence. He said, we're going to see. We're going to play ball. We're going to see. And I love that. So maybe I got to just whoosah it right out of me because, man, it gets my blood boiling. But you mentioned earlier Lamar's favorite target, and it's certainly been Marquise Hollywood Brown thus far. And he's been super impressive. He's averaging 6 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown so far through 2 games. What have you seen thus far that's been different from Hollywood, and how much do you think his role could change once first rounder Rashad Bateman returns to action?
I mean, we're finally starting to see what Hollywood Brown can do when he's healthy. Remember week 1, he was basically playing on one leg and still running 4 threes down the field in the playoffs versus Tennessee. And this year, he's finally healthy. I know he missed a little time with the training camp, but he always was saying to WJZ that he's locked in, and he's paying attention to what the other players are doing in training camp and then applying it to his game, getting those mental reps, and then applying it to his game and then performing on the field. And you're starting to see with his target numbers. I think he had 10 targets last week versus Kansas City. As long as he can keep it around 6 to 10 targets, stay healthy, and just get him the ball, be fine. And then Rashad's going to get into a little bit of a slow start because this is the NFL. This isn't Minnesota versus Iowa, right? And he's going to be a little bit off to a slow start, but I think he's going to get in rhythm just in time for the playoffs.
Good.
And that seemed like definitely where the Ravens need him most, at least in the last couple of years. They've been really struggling through the air in the playoffs. So hopefully he's the difference maker, but we'll wait and see on that. But last question I have for you, Max, tonight is what's your prediction for this Sunday against the Lions?
You know what, man? I don't think Detroit is a pushover as many people think. Look, I know that they're the Detroit Lions, and no one really cares about the Detroit Lions. I think the Ravens are going to take care of business for sure. I think it's going to be a double-digit win. Um, Look, Jared Goff is no slouch. He was the number one pick for a reason, and I know that he's missing targets. I know Kenny Galladay is a New York Giant, and it seems like no one wants to play in Detroit via free agent. I think it's going to be a little closer than most people think in the first half, but I think in the second half, the talent for the Baltimore Ravens, that's going to prevail. And I think Mark Andrews is going to have a really big game. I think they're really going to try to team up and double team Marquise Hollywood Brown because you got to take away somebody in the offense. But I think overall, it's going to be an easy win in the second half for the Ravens.
Nice. Well, I certainly hope you're right. And Max, I appreciate you coming on. Why don't you let the fans know where they can find you and what you're working on?
Hey, man, Channel 13, WJZ TV. I've been there for about 3 years now. You guys can catch me mostly on the weekends, 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. on the weekends, minus football, college football on CBS. But most immediately, you can catch me tomorrow at 4, 5, 6, and 7 on Channel 13.
Nice.
I'll be watching, as I
Absolutely.
usually do. So I'll be watching.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, and thanks for being patient with me with the time, mix up there. Thanks so much for coming on with us. We appreciate it, and have a good evening, sir.
Glenn,
Max,
Tony,
thank you so much, man. Good seeing you.
All right, man. Stay